I was 38 years old the first time I opened an investment account. Not 22, not 25, 38. I had a mortgage, 2 kids, a car payment, and exactly $340 in savings. Everyone online made it sound like if you hadn't started by 25, you'd already lost. Like the game was over before I even walked into the room. Here's what nobody told me. I was wrong. And so is everyone who told you it's too late. My name doesn't matter for this one. What matters is the math, because the math is the only thing that's going to save you from the panic. At 38, I had 27 years until standard retirement age, 27 years of compounding. That's not too late. That's still enough time to build real wealth, just not the way the finance influencers make it look. This is what actually happened when I started at 38. The mistakes, the uncomfortable truths, and the one decision that mattered more than any stock pick I ever made. The first 6 months were the worst part. Not because the investing was hard, because the comparison was unbearable. I'd scroll through videos of 24-year-olds with 6-figure portfolios, and something in my chest would just tighten. I did the math obsessively. If I'd started at 22 instead of 38 with the same contributions, I'd have almost double the money by retirement. Compound interest doesn't care about your excuses. It rewards time, and I had less of it than I wanted. I remember sitting at my kitchen table one night doing calculations on a napkin, and my wife found me there at midnight, genuinely upset. She asked what was wrong. I told her, I think I ruined our future by waiting this long. She said something I didn't understand at the time. She said, you didn't waste 16 years. You lived 16 years. We bought a house. We had 2 kids. You changed careers into something that actually pays you well now. That's not nothing. I didn't believe her that night. It took me almost a year to understand she was right. Here's the trap almost everyone starting late falls into. You spend so much energy grieving the years you didn't invest that you delay actually starting for months, sometimes years longer. The guilt becomes its own form of procrastination. I lost almost 4 months just being paralyzed by shame instead of opening the account and putting money in. That was the first thing I wish I knew. The years you spent not investing already happened. No amount of self-punishment gets them back. Every day you spend feeling guilty instead of contributing is a day you're repeating the exact mistake you're upset about. There's a number that gets thrown around online constantly. You need to save $1 million by 65. And when you're 38 with $340 in the bank, that number doesn't feel motivating. It feels like a joke. It felt honestly, like being told to walk to the moon. So I did something most people starting late never do. I stopped looking at the finish line and I started looking at the next 12 months only. My first goal wasn't $1 million. My first goal was $6,000 in a Roth IRA by the end of that year. That's it. Small enough that it didn't feel impossible. Small enough that I could actually picture doing it. I automated $500 a month. I didn't touch it. I didn't check it every day because checking it every day when the market dipped made me want to pull it all out in a panic, which almost happened in month 4 when the account actually lost value for the first time and I nearly transferred everything back to a savings account out of fear. My cousin, who'd been investing since his 20s, told me something that stuck. The market doesn't know how old you are. It doesn't punish you for starting late. It only punishes you for stopping. That reframed everything. I wasn't behind a person. I was behind a number. And numbers, unlike people, don't judge you. They just respond to whatever you put into them, starting from wherever you are. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. Starting at 38 meant I had to save a much higher percentage of my income than someone who started at 25 would have needed to. There was no getting around that math. Less time meant more pressure on the contribution side. So I did the boring, unglamorous thing. I looked at where our money was actually going, not where I assumed it was going, where it was actually going. 2 streaming subscriptions we never used, a gym membership neither of us had visited in 8 months, restaurant spending that had quietly crept up to almost $600 a month without either of us noticing. Cutting that stuff didn't feel dramatic. It felt almost insultingly small compared to the size of the goal. But redirected into investments, that small $600 a month invested consistently was projected to grow into more than $400,000 over the next 25 years, assuming a reasonable average market return. That number is what finally made it real for me. Not the sacrifice, the math on the other side of the sacrifice. I also did something I was embarrassed about for a long time. I asked for a raise. At 38, with 2 kids and a mortgage, walking into my manager's office and asking for more money felt terrifying in a way it never had at 24, when I had nothing to lose. But I'd built actual value in my role over 16 years, value I'd never once leveraged into higher pay. That conversation got me a 14% raise. 14% for one uncomfortable 20-minute conversation was worth more than a year of clipping coupons. That was the second thing I wish I knew. Starting late means you have less time for compounding, but you often have more earning power than you did in your 20s. Use it. That's the trade you're allowed to make. I'm 44 now, 6 years into this. My portfolio isn't 7 figures. It's not going to be 7 figures for a while, and I've made peace with that. But here's what changed that I didn't expect. The anxiety is gone. Not because the money solved everything, it hasn't, but because for the first time in my adult life, I have a plan instead of a vague hope. I know what my number needs to be. I know roughly when I'll hit it if I stay consistent. That certainty did more for my mental health than the actual dollar amount ever could. My daughter is 12 now. She's already asked me questions about investing that I never once thought to ask my own parents. Whatever I lost in those 16 years I didn't invest, I'm making sure she doesn't lose the same 16 years herself. That, more than any dollar figure, might end up being the actual return on everything I've built since 38. Here's what nobody selling you a course wants you to hear. Starting late isn't the tragedy the internet makes it out to be. The actual tragedy is starting late and then quitting after 8 months because the progress feels too slow. I've watched 3 friends start investing around the same time I did. 2 of them stopped within the first year, spooked by a market dip, convinced it wasn't working fast enough. They're exactly where they were 6 years ago. I'm not rich, but I'm not where I was either. The only difference between us wasn't intelligence or income or luck. It was that I didn't stop. If you're 38 or 45 or even 50 and you think the window already closed, it didn't. The window only closes the day you decide it has and stop trying. You don't need to catch up to anyone. You're not racing the 24-year-old with the 6-figure portfolio. You're only racing the version of yourself who keeps waiting for the right time to start. That time was 6 years ago for me. The second best time is today. If this hit different, watch What Happens When You Think Like a Millionaire for 365 days. Subscribe to Alpha Ledger because we're just getting started.